And we're on.
Yeah. Okay, so Onion, I just recently took over editing of the reporting spec. I want to say first off, I'm happy that. Hey. I'm really happy that Mozilla is excited to support the reporting API. I'd love to see a second implementation and do what we can to unblock that. We've definitely heard the feedback, especially around the complexity of the spec and the privacy concerns around storing things like reporting configurations and storing reports. Let me see if I can get these slides up. See that last thing. I did dive in. No. There. There's the window.
Hey, technology.
Yeah, I could have said that.
Okay, well, we're gonna have all my tabs on there anyway. How do I mute this? I just need to work from the computer. That's all right. So one of the biggest things we learned is that the reporting API has two very distinct use cases. I'm tentatively calling them ephemeral reporting and persistent reporting. There we go. So ephemeral reporting is for all the reports that are tied to events that occur inside a document. So CSP violations, feature policy violations, crash reports, deprecations, interventions. And for all those, the report to header specifies where reports should go. And if anything during lifetime of that document triggers one of those reports, it should get sent there. The other big use case that we have is what I'm calling persistent reporting. Currently, this is just for network error logging, although there have been other proposals in this space around cases where you really want to persist the reporting configuration. You want to report completely out of band for things that maybe there isn't an active document. Now, my understanding is that Mozilla would really like to support the ephemeral reporting. And I'd really like to find a way to separate all the other things in the spec and move them somewhere where they can be debated separately, implemented separately, but still leave us these, building blocks so that we can build network error logging on top of this. Let's see here. Right, yeah, so there are significant things in reporting API that are not currently needed for ephemeral reporting. So yeah, persistent reporting configuration, delivery after the document is actually enclosed, batching reports together, possibly failover and retry a failed report delivery. It's not technically needed. It could be very useful for document reporting, especially if you have third-party reporting collectors, because just because the document's available doesn't necessarily mean that the reporting collector is available. It'd be nice if the user agent could try one, and if it's not up, then try the other. Sampling is another one that is really important for network error logging. It could be useful for other reports, especially where you might get a large volume of reports and you want to say just, please report a small amount of them. But maybe we don't technically need it.
So just a quick comment on that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the best way to partition it, because, so for example, sampling is something that we heard of the use case for CSV.
Right.
Lots of people do enroll CSV sampling because they just selectively emit CSV report headers on some responses, but only some sites can do that. And we certainly heard complaints around I don't want the 100 reports being triggered because it's the same type of error all the time. So either batch it or sample it. Right. So it does feel like there's some lower level primitives that are shared across. Even in ephemeral sampling can be very useful.
For sure, yeah. I suppose it's not strictly necessary for an MVP or V1, but
yes.
Yeah, but yeah, it is.
Sure. I just want to call out that we have heard that request from folks that have implemented reporting endpoints for CSP, right? And they recommend, in fact, if possible, not to emit the report to all of them.
very hopeful that that might affect the suggestions later.
How would sampling work? Is it across users?
No, I think it just, the current implementation just basically is a random number generator. The random number you say I want to receive 0.01 of all reports. And so for every report, it has a 1% chance of actually being delivered.
That chance is for each user.
Yeah, per user, per instance of the report. Yeah. So let's see. There we go. Actually, so one of the things that I'd like to get out of this, especially for other implementers, is some guidance from people about what's the best way to take these requirements and move them out of the way of you know, whether that means having a spec that has some algorithms in it that are optional and or possibly unused, having a totally separate spec for more consistent reporting, or like a level 1, level 2 spec.
Sorry, what's the goal? Like, what are you trying to do?
What I'm trying to do is sort of craft a smaller, slimmed down version of reporting that can be implemented without forcing other implementers to build support for features that they're not intending to ship. So if right away somebody wants to ship this infrastructure for CSP and feature policy and crash reports, to have a spec which says, okay, well, this is what you need, right? You need, you know, maybe it's one-shot delivery. You don't have to store reports. You don't have to store report configuration, right? You can tie this document lifetime, and you've got the self-contained bit that you can implement and say, you know what, we have support for reporting. As it is right now, you can't support, like, if you want to implement the reporting spec, you know, when you parse the report header, you have to persist this somewhere. You've got to update any previous instances of it. You've got to batch reports in a particular way so that you can deliver them in batches. Things like that aren't necessarily needed for document reporting.
I see. So your goal is to split the part that is only ephemeral and then have that make it implementable by other browsers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe just a little bit of history. When we're incubating reporting, the hero use case, if you will, was network hero logging, right? Like the two were developed side by side. And it is the case that network hero logging just requires a lot more machinery and complexity, if you will. So reporting was, like, that's why we had failovers, retries, and a bunch of these things needed down into reporting. And then afterwards, we started adding things like, oh, let's get intervention reports or other things, which require a much simpler subset of requirements or habits.
So it really feels like level 1, level 2 to me.
Well, you could have the core thing, what I think most browsers agree on, and then the persistent thing, I would say, separate or like that. There is also some sorting out to be done there because like some of it is just not acceptable.
Is that so separate documents? Or like
I guess so, because it's sort of,
a different section in the same spec saying,
I think separate, like if we don't know or agree on the design, yeah, then it seems easier if it's tracked separately.
Yeah, I think it needs to be separate document. Otherwise, you can very easily introduce interdependencies within the same document that then like you know,
yeah, but the part where I'm a bit concerned about that is feedback we got from Mozilla regarding, for example, navigation timing and resource timing, and the dependencies between them that basically Mozilla would like to see them united. So
I guess the thing is, like, if at some point like we figure out a design, like it seems fine to just merge that in, but it's sort of like incubate the persistent thing first until it's like
okay,
in a place where
incubate in a
everyone
separate document and then maybe we'll merge it or
Sure.
not, depending on whether it makes sense.
I'm thinking about the testability of like the reporting API as is. If it's only usable by these other things that build on top of it,
Oh, you mean,
Could we have a collection of unit tests for just the reporting, or would we just have to go through all these other APIs?
For testing, I believe that web platform tests, there's a way to trigger a particular kind of test report.
Okay.
And then that can be intercepted, you can test reporting if you run it, you can actually set up a report collector inside WPT and.
There's a web driver API, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I believe it's the only place that you can actually trigger these sort of test reports.
That makes sense.
And this doesn't directly address what you're asking on this, but the reporting spec does define a couple of features by itself.
So very good.
So you could
That is true,
craft tests that way.
It does, but those features are crash deprecation intervention, and deprecation interventions are not, they're sort of fluid themselves.
Yes,
They're not-
fair.
Well,
Right.
yeah, not defined across.
No, there's no universally deprecated feature.
Crashes are theoretically not supposed to happen.
Right, they're also very hard to test. You can always visit Chrome crash.
You can.
There's a
Yeah,
tab.
it's
but
what
it's
explodes
not-
crash.
It's not.
It's not what explodes, you can't link to it.
Yeah.
Right, that's, yeah. We had a bug in Firefox where you could navigate to something that we can crash.
Oh, yeah, well, that happens all the
We
time.
have bugs. No, I mean, but like, dedicated endpoints that we have not secured.
All right,
So how it sounds like if we might wanna do something like L1, just only doing FMO, and L2, having a persistency like that. From what we discussed so far.
Yeah, so, and maybe separate out there's document lifetime associated reports.
Yeah.
There's auto document, I think that's what you.
That makes it better.
The way
Yeah.
to think of it.
Yeah.
And I would go through this list kind of one by one, the rest of it, and see whether it makes sense or not. For example, maybe we could have discussion around sampling in base report, whether that makes sense or not.
Should definitely, like, the syntax should allow for it, like.
Right,
Whatever.
so it should be,
Right.
Uh,
Somebody mentioned incubation, so reporting got taken out of incubation and adopted, obviously.
Yep.
Is this a call to formally put the document reporting back into incubation, or should it just, this discussion still be within this group? And
I think you can stay here, right?
okay,
Yeah, doesn't, incubation doesn't imply YCG
okay,
necessarily. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, we don't care about that.
I won't tell ICG.
No, I meant more in general, like the whole distinction.
So,
Yes.
so, do we want to go over the set of features and see which ones are relevant?
Well, I think
like right now.
That's what I have on here.
Okay.
Yeah, is a concrete suggestion, you can
Okay.
iterate on this, obviously. Right, so one would be removing the persistence of the report configuration, tying that to the document lifetime, figuring out a way to get network error logins configuration into origin policy. It doesn't necessarily make sense for the report to HTTP header to be influencing network error logging. And that should let us simplify the report configuration syntax. We also want to restrict batching of reports, either down to per document, right? So you only send reports from a single document batched together, or possibly all the documents from that origin that are in a single agent cluster. On the grounds that if they could already script each other, there's nothing they couldn't do to collude and infer whatever information that you get from batching reports. But it just seems that, it's always split on origin. I think right now, if you have reports from two different origins going to the same endpoint, then we're currently allowed to batch those. So just making sure that we don't do that.
So yeah, so I guess what you're saying is like, even if they can script each other, if they are cross origin, they should not be
Yes.
batched.
Yes.
Because there is like the document domain exception case.
Yeah. We should be able to remove both max age because we're not holding on to reports forever, and include subdomains because we're never generating reports from one origin and sending it out as equals for another. But specifically leave in report definitions, report formats, the algorithm for sending reports through fetch, as well as the reporting observer API, because that's used by all of the production reports. Right.
Does CSP have an API as well?
CSP report, well, if you use the report to header and you use the CSP report to directive, then it'll do this.
Okay.
We still have the report URI directive.
There's like a serious
I
security
guess it's
violation.
deprecated, but
Yeah, there's an event, it's a security violation.
yeah.
There's CSV3, that's the reporting observer.
Oh, so it goes, it's dispatched based on reporting observer. So the timing is.
And yeah, just maybe one call when we talk about simplifying the syntax, there's also the structured header.
Yes.
Because right now we use JSON.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of slides on that.
Okay.
After that, just to mention it.
Okay,
So,
I'll hold on to that.
okay. Yeah, so there's the question about where to put the common functionality for consistent report types, but it sounds like we want to have a separate document to put all those together. I had considered just saying, well, you know what, let's just move those to error logging, but if there are other report types, then we don't want to have each stack have to come up with their own and end up with inconsistencies around, say, when we clear reports.
Yeah, so I think, at least for us, I think like batching and sampling, they seem okay. Like I can't really think of any problems. But
Yeah.
assuming like the
Okay.
per agent cluster, same origin thing.
Yeah, there's also some significant privacy questions around whether you have to opt into document reporting. And yeah, obviously, if we are going to solve that, that should just be one common place and not for each spec.
Wait, sorry, what's
Sorry.
opting to what?
There was an issue on GitHub, I think it was raised by Brave, saying that report collection from third parties might have to be something that you opt into.
As a user?
As a user, yeah.
Okay.
But I see this especially around, like not necessarily per document, because the document could always send things to that report collector through fetch if it wanted to.
Yeah.
Actually, this is kind of a more general question. In that same bug or issue, there's a question around, even today with CSP violation reports, what visibility does fetch, do those run through fetch? Are those plumbed through fetch? If I'm building, so the use
Roughly,
case is,
yeah.
if you're building an extension or something to observe and audit all the flow of information, are you actually in position to intercept and make a decision with these
For
reports?
out of document reports.
No, just for any regular reports today.
And I think they may be defined in terms of fetch, but I don't think they go through service worker. I think they explicitly skip that.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, reports.
But do they go
Their own
through
time.
extension, whatever?
Well, that's up
That
to each
is-
user.
Yeah, that's a user agent, it's a defined concept.
So the general question was, I'm a user of web request API, which is not standardized, but I would like to be able to observe and audit what data is being sent out. How does report API interact with them?
I have no idea, especially out of document.
Right, exactly. Because for, at least if we stick to the simple case of attached to the document lifecycle, right? It seems like that should be routed through fetch, and like there should be some decision made during fetch as to what reports are visible or not.
In terms of like the spec, or,
I mean, I think in general, like it should route from fetch to that. Routes from fetch. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is exposed to anyone.
yeah,
We do define which reports are visible through reporting observer. Right, there's a class of reports that can get sent out through reporting API, but you can't get access to JavaScript. I suspect that's probably the same set.
And the one thing is, even we say it's per document, that if we do batching per same origin in the whole agent cluster, it could be from any of those documents. And so,
That's true, yeah.
and so that might complicate things, if you wanna try to attribute things, and especially like service workers would have to be skipped in that case,
Right.
because otherwise it's
Yeah.
just.
Are you just wanting to like monitor them? Because reporting observer is useful for that, but if you actually want to intercept them or change them, then you probably need some other API.
I'm not the one that wants to do that.
Okay, so, sorry, are you representing the position of the
No,
person?
the question is, what's the use case? And if the use case is privacy extensions, then this is a user agent specific discussion.
Right.
I'm
just echoing what was raised,
Right.
right? And that was
On is right about the batching now, right? If you want to do something to reports as they go out, you really want to get them before they get to the batch to get sent out.
This is probably at a minimum a good blurb or an explanation that should have in the privacy and security section. That's the considerations there. A related question to that is, what is the data in the reports? What kind of scrubbing or not does reporting API does? What's actually, what can be put in there?
Yeah.
So we should probably provide some guidance there.
Yeah, that I haven't actually looked at for all the various features. That is definitely also like a thing.
I'm gonna just leave a big comment though, the general comment. I don't think user would understand the implication of like your error being reported to different origin, right? Like, I mean, that just like not possible, right? Like, there's no way user can understand the implication of this information. Like, that should not even be suggested as a security implication or privacy implication. Like,
It seems very similar to me to what we do for background sync. Right, so background sync is this, the ability to send things well outside of a document lifecycle. It can't go to third parties, but
yeah, but that's a completely different scenario, right? The user understand that, like,
We have problems with that process, to be clear.
sure, but background sync at least has a section of spec saying that, this, users should be allowed to opt out of this. Right? For network error logging, one of the closest things we have, we've had something like this in Chrome for a while, but it's tied to you agreeing to send data to Google when you install Chrome. So I don't know if those same sort of requirements should be there for third parties.
Well, again, like the third party is just like fetching a third party. Like, if you disallow that, then also disallow this.
Right.
Yeah, but there's some distinction between in-document reports to third parties and out-of-document reports to third parties.
Well, for the
But,
persistent
yeah.
case, sure. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is particularly, I thought we
Yes.
were also still discussing ephemeral.
Okay, no, this is specifically for persistent.
Yeah, well, persistent has a whole bunch of problems.
But we should have a place to put them so that we solve them once, then they can be solved for any seconds. Sure. Cool. All right, structured headers. So this is what the header looks like for report to right now. It's JSON, it uses the. Sorry, did I say that?
Well, but it won't get like in the future, when structured headers have sort of like dedicated on the wire syntax, this will still look crappy. And you will complain about it compressing poorly and whatever. And
So we can almost get all this into structured headers right now.
Yeah.
So, the trouble is that we're defining sort of a two-level structure where we have endpoint groups that have their own parameters, and each of those is a list of endpoints, and the endpoints also have their own parameters. And that's really difficult to shoehorn in structured headers as is. I've got a couple of ways that we might be able to do it. Right, so it's a simple dictionary, right? We can just say, here's an endpoint group, it just is a couple of different URLs, and the endpoint group has a maximum age, or it has a parameter on that. We lose the ability with this to have parameters on the individual URLs, right? So we can't say priority 1, priority 2. Maybe you can infer that by their order, but any other parameters, yeah, there's no way to get that in there. Dictionaries might get inner lists. I think that this is a proposal, which looks like it has some traction in structured headers.
Is this what my question?
This is what my question was suggesting, and people seem to be okay with this. So the idea is that the inner list, I think dictionaries can already have inner lists. the idea is that they should get their own parameters. Right, so we can put priority, we can put max age on the URLs. What we lose with Mike West's proposal is the ability to have parameters both on the inner list items and on the list itself.
Is the endpoint suffix significant here, or is it just?
Sorry, no, it's just, that was matching the existing JSON one.
So what do we lose?
So we lose the ability to, so you notice I have a max age on both of the endpoints for CSP.
Yeah.
You lose the ability to do something like that, where you just say,
Oh, we
Here's
have
a
a
list
max
with a
age
single-
for everything.
yeah, you lose the ability to have parameters on the input group.
So, for example, sampling, right? I want to create a report configuration
Yeah.
for, I want 10% of CSP violations.
Yeah.
That would be an example.
That would be another example of something you want to put on the input group itself. Yeah. So maybe there's time to get in on that issue and say, hey, you know what, we have a use case for parameters here and here at the same time.
And Mark Nottingham should be around,
Cool, okay.
so we should definitely bring that up with him. He said he'll be joining next thing. But
For URL parameters. Other than priority, what else do we have? Because I wonder if, right, like priority one, priority two could be equal set, right?
So currently they have URL, priority, and weight.
Oh, wait.
yeah, and I also think that implicitly assuming the priority based on order is, like, you can't have multiple endpoints, all of them the same priority, like,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, I just wanna move
Just
that.
yeah, I wonder if the ones that are random.
Yeah, I would have to go back and talk to the NEL folks to see what
See what they actually need.
Yeah. It seems like the dictionary parameters are more useful than the.
Oh, and then the actual list parameters?
Yeah. I think it's, yeah.
Oh, and then one other possibility is that because we actually do have a two-level structure here, to define this in two different headers. Right? This is probably terrible, but right, if you can define all of your endpoints in one place and then you group them in another header, then you can apply parameters at each level.
Right.
This has the unfortunate property that if you want to use the same URL with different parameters, you've got to define it twice. Right.
You make 3 headers.
This is also slightly problematic in that, just in terms of data types, in the first one, I think those are keys, where we have primary, backup, and HTTP. And in the second one, they are tokens. And so we have to resolve that. So
Resolve in the sense they need to use compatible syntax?
it would be nice if they use compatible types so that you could say if, otherwise we have to find a way to, in the spec, refer to the name of the token and if it matches the name of the key.
Seems doable.
Then, there might be different allowed characters as well, but
Sure, but that would.
yeah.
I mean, I think in general, like, you're allowed to sort of like subset the types.
Yes. Yeah, you had additional restrictions.
Could I clarify something?
Yeah.
The browser would actually only send one report to one of these locations at the end of the day.
That's correct, yeah.
We
For
wouldn't
any
say, send a
violation.
report to these 500 people, and, okay.
No, this is purely for like reliability of delivery.
Okay.
If your primary is down,
One
then
fails.
blast out of them, right, and or load balancing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's the last slide. Thanks. Thank you. Is there anything else that you think is blocking any other implementers of this? Like, they're not there now or just on GitHub?
I think this was it for what we used, but I don't know about, Safari.
Yeah, Alex, you just say, do you
About-
have opinions regarding that?
So one question I was gonna ask you is this being discussed on IETF? Is that
Yeah.
what it is? Yeah, so I think that would be the realm of
The structured headers
Yeah.
bit? Or,
Yeah, that would be the realm of,
yeah, Tommy.
team outside, yeah,
Yeah.
our team, so like, we have to talk to them about that, but, yeah.
Yeah, but generally regardless where structured headers will end up, which will probably dictate what we'll end up using, like I'm guessing we'll end up supporting all the use cases in one way or another that is more or less ugly,
Yep.
depending on where that ends up. But regardless of that, just generally regarding the split between persistent and ephemeral and CSP reports, have you looked into that? Is that something you'd be interested in?
I think previously one of the biggest concern we had was the tracking possibility, right? And also Crossorigin security perspective. So if we got rid of that, I think that's something we could consider.
So if you got rid of what specifically?
Well, the two issues were the tracking because of persistency and then Crossorigin, right? Because issue where you could report things from different origin.
So I think it's an NEL specific.
Okay.
Yeah, NEL. Yeah,
Okay.
so those are the two major issues. So if we got rid of that, then it's just reporting the CSP error that happened on page.
And just to clarify, for per document reporting, cross-origin is still
That would be
allowed,
still-
assuming credentials are omitted. And
I mean, that would be still concern.
why?
It is subject to CORS, and we are definitely talking about removing all credentials. So
Yeah, but I think even if you remove the credential, that would be green and well, if you restrict the course, maybe.
Right.
But like, how do we know the course was set if the request has failed? I guess that you have to first succeed a course. What happens if the course request has failed? Right? Like you have to first have succeeded course request to confirm that you have granted, then.
it'll do a course pre-flight, and it'll send an options request, and if the server doesn't say.
Yeah, but saying,
you
yeah,
don't send the
if
report.
the pre-flight fails, then we don't report.
You don't report, yeah.
Right.
That-
So,
that's what Chrome does.
yeah, so,
It's equivalent to fetching the same data.
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
think there's a difference in document between doing this and doing an XHR, the same data.
Yeah, so that might be okay. I can't off the top of my head do a security review and type features. Why not?
So conceptually then, the idea that there's a mechanism that does a fetch with a post for reporting, and then there's the list of the types of reports for which CSP is something all browsers are already implementing it to some degree or in a different way. And then there's another list, which is crashes, deprecations, interventions.
Right.
Those are the three core categories.
They're defined in the reporting
that
API.
define the report API.
Feature policy also defines reports to this, and I'm not sure if anybody else does, but.
Okay.
Cool, maybe at some point.
Right, yeah.
Okay, where are crashes defined, or is that also, it's just an idea that we all have?
It's part of reporting right now.
So it's in the spec.
Do we
Yeah, which
define what a crash
is
is?
a bit, like, from my perspective, it's a bit weird to also have features, like, it may have been cleaner to just have, infrastructure and then have crash reporting be something,
To be its own spec.
its own.
Crashing is also interesting, like if at some point we get to the point where we sort of, like, when a crash happens, you crash the entire agent cluster, which documents can you report?
Right.
And like, because there's also some cross-origin stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is, and out of memory reports is something that, can impact many documents.
Yeah, do we wanna say that a crash is different from a jet zone? Probably, how do we specify that?
How does it crash?
Yeah, like,
So the spec right now lists two reasons and also allows the field to be blank. I don't know how it's actually implemented, but the spec says there's reason reason unresponsive, and then blank would be something else. And so I don't actually know how it's implemented.
I'm not sure actually.
No worries.
Do we even want to distinguish those? Okay, I don't know. That seems sketchy.
You definitely want to distinguish it, it makes a big difference. So we deployed it at Facebook on the small sample of users, and it's very nice to be able to see, like, when there's issues with spikes and reviews, causing more activity crashes. One thing that's really helpful to us is to be able to like, distinguish devices, so we know it's like one user that's crashing a lot because it's malware or something. But right now there's no like cookie.
So because the report doesn't contain any type of ID that can be mapped back to the session.
Right.
There is some guidance in the spec that says that if you really want to do that, you can define a reporting endpoint that includes that sort of information.
Yeah, and we've thought about it, but it just seems a little bit hacky to have a reporting around includes your, I don't know, Facebook user ID or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also indistinguishable from some tracking related concerns
What's the
that,
persistency of this identifier?
Right.
Well, I think we put in those features just because it was expedient and simple to put it in the specs. We can also consider pulling out some of them to standalone.
Right.
Specs would make sense.
Right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Of course, then lots of complaining about it.
That's all point.
Yeah, no, it might be okay. It might be okay to leave correction.
Is CSP the one that everybody's just like 100%? Get CSP on top of reporting and get it all built up? Or are there other features that multiple user agents are considering on the short list?
We're interested in crash
Crash as well.
and potentially could at some point in the future. It's a bit hard to figure out how it should work.
I think for us, future policies also.
Yeah, feature policy might also be one, big one.
Okay. So most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only ones are deprecation and intervention.
Yeah.
PPS reports might not be a
is
thing.
that,
I kind of like the
Open
idea of
Open
deprecation,
yes,
like, hey, you used something that we're planning to remove next year, please stop it, or your website will stop working. That sounds really appealing to me.
Is the idea of the intervention or deprecation warning, for example, we were just discussing a little while ago how many large images there still are on the web. Has the idea of, hey, you should consider, that's probably something that's on the short list and we just haven't yet considered whether to use it.
Considered no web page something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
proactively just telling the user through the reporting API that
Well,
telling the developer.
So the entire purpose of the reporting API is to tell developers things.
Yeah. I definitely would consider telling them unsolicited things like that.
Well, that's a future policy now.
There is future policy for
Don't send me credit.
oversized images. So yeah, if you were to put that policy on your site and say, send these reports, then yes, you definitely.
So the route to do that is warning on feature policy.
Yeah, report
If
only.
you want to hear about things that exist as feature policy. Fascinating, okay.
I like the idea of just like opinionated.
Well, and I mean, like, Chrome does that just very out of band, right? Like, you go to the webmaster console, like, by the way, we're turning this thing off. Sets me out to 50 million web apps. It's terrible because nobody reads that now. It's the person responsible for searching optimization, not the web app. Was
yeah.
I think that's.
Alright.
Alright, so now it's not mine. Break. I guess we're running a little bit over.
Yeah,
Let's
Let's take a break, yeah.
There's that can.
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
that's, I suspect.
It disappeared as soon as I said that.
Was it 10 to 11?
It was 10:45 to 11 was.
No, but the break time,
Oh.
where there's like
The supported break period.
coffee, yeah.
There may still be coffee down there.
Yeah.
Probably they put away the croissants.
So should we break or?
I think we should take a quick break.
Feedback schedule, yes, you may break between 10 and 11.
Okay.
When?
10 minutes?
11:15.
11:15.
15?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I don't know if it's still. That's right, I'm gonna try.